Welcome back, guys, to video number 3 on the Turbo Lancer. So as you guys know, we bought this car for $650, and in the last video we installed a $400 Maxpeedingrods Turbo. In the last video, we plumbed up all the lines that go to the turbo, we installed an oil drain fitting on the oil sump, we ran the coolant lines, and we also ran the oil feed line, and we got the car started for the very first time. Today, we're going to be installing the cheapest intercooler kit that you can buy from Maxpeedingrods, of course. And we're going to be hopefully feeling boost in this thing for the very first time, because that's the only thing that we're missing right now. Today, we have adopted a Peter apprentice, and he is going to help us take the bumper off the Lamborghini. Get to work. Get to work.
So we're pulling off this front bar, and Rex is going to put on the Evo front bar. It looks better, and with the big front mount, it looks sick.
So Peter and I got to removing the front bumper. It's a little bit of a process. You start by removing the headlights, which are held on by two 10mm bolts, and then underneath the headlights are a few clips in some tricky spots. There's also this weird bracket coming off the crash bar, and there's a Phillips head connecting the crash bar to the front bumper, so you need to reach your hand in to get that one too. And then after you've removed all the clips on the front, there are two bolts holding the bumper to the fenders. In order to get to these, you need to turn the wheel all the way, but honestly, it's pretty simple. Alright guys, we have the bumper off, and we also have a box right here. What's in this box? Well, watch for the next 10 seconds and find out. Big reveal, intercooler. Oh my, look at that fresh cooler, baby. Shiny. It's like
combination of you walking around with like a baby or a boombox.
A boombox?
No case.
On the other Lancer, we were running an Evo bar, and the Evo bar has holes for 7-inch spotlights. And unfortunately, we weren't able to install those spotlights because the intercooler piping on the other one was too high up. So we're not going to make that mistake with this one. We're going to make sure that the intercooler sits low enough so that we can run those spotties. But yeah, it should be sitting about there. How does that look, Peter?
Looks pretty good, but we'll have to get the level out.
Usually when you would install an intercooler, you would make 2 custom brackets. But because the crash bar is right where I want the intercooler to be, I decided to weld 2 tabs onto the crash bar and then mount the intercooler off that. This is the crash bar on the Lancer, and this is actually the crash bar. Like, look at this. Oh, don't go too hard. You're gonna break it, man. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna drill and weld some tabs onto this crash bar so that we can mount the intercooler. And if we do it this way, we're not actually chopping into the crash bar, so we're not making it less structural than it actually is. So I think that's a smarter way to do it. And there are 2 12 mils under here that I think you need to remove. Do a bit of ray gun.
Go on, swing your finger. Go.
We're gonna oil you up one day and slide you across the garage floor, Peter. Lancer is the answer. If you want to be safe in an accident, buy a 2001 CE Lancer. Guaranteed.
Death.
So we got to making the brackets to hold the intercooler to the crash bar. I had some mild steel lying around, so I used that to make the brackets. I just cut off 2 little tabs with the angle grinder. Shout out to Yorak. I'm not going to say the last bit because you know why. But he came around the other day, he bought a set of drills and he didn't even use them. So sponsored by Yorak. Thanks, man. And then I went ahead and drilled 2 holes using these beautiful drill bits, thanks to Yorak. To open up the holes, I used this step bit, aka the Christmas tree drill bit, and then I went ahead and smoothed everything down with the belt sander, and then I took off the paint on the crash bar using a drill and wire wheel. So we got the crash bar on the ground now, connected to the ground of the welder, and of course we have our brackets here that we made that we didn't take all the paint off, but we got enough of it off to be able to weld. We're now going to use the TIG welder, weld these 2 brackets on, and then we should be able to install the intercooler with a few long bolts. But it's as simple as that. We've been at this for like 20 minutes or so. Hopefully this all works, but thin metal, thick metal, it's going to be a bit tricky. You're going to play around with the amperage. I love welding. Do you love welding, Peter?
I don't know how to do it.
Are you excited, Peter?
Yes.
He hates it when I ask him that. I like spam that question to him.
Points the camera at you and goes, "Are you excited, man?
Are you excited, man?"
Where the f did that come from? What the
Bro, that scared the out of me. Oh my god. Bro, that's huge. Oh, was that in there the whole time? It's coming. It's coming.
Where is it?
It's coming. There is the biggest spider in the crash bar. Bro! Get out of there. Bro, it's hot there. Oh my god. Wait. No, Peter!
I just want to compare it to the side of my hand.
Would you pick it up?
No. That's gone. Later, just stop it.
Alright, we've got the two brackets on. Not the prettiest welds, but you know, when I'm sitting on the floor with huntsmen's about to crawl up onto my hand, that's what you can expect. That was f***ing scary, bro. That thing was big. It was a small huntsman. They can get bigger here. But yeah, brackets welded, baby. Might chuck some paint on it. A little bit of paint. So we began to install the crash bar with the two new welded tabs for the intercooler. The crash bar comes off with 4 12mm bolts, and of course to install it, it's also those 4 12mm bolts. And just like that, we now have the intercooler mounted. What I did was obviously weld on these brackets, and then I also welded up 2 bolts to extend this further down because we want this as far down as possible. I've just used another nut here which I can lock down in place so this thing's nice and sturdy. It's a pretty janky bracket, but it will work. And we've also got a little bracket down at the bottom there. We need to do one on the other side, but for now, the intercooler is very sturdy and will not move. Maxpeedingrods also sent out a bunch of intercooler piping that we're going to be using in order to fit up this intercooler and run the boost pipes. But we of course, you know, have the old Lancer pipes, so we're going to be using a combination of those and of course the new intercooler pipes, and then we should be able to have boost running to this thing. And yeah, this part's a bit tricky, so I'm gonna get straight to it. The first thing I did to clear up more room was relocate the battery. Now the battery has some wiggle room with the standard bracket. It can actually be moved over almost about 6 or 7 centimeters without any modification. You can see there's not really much room with this plastic tray holding the battery. So I removed that, then moved the battery over and tightened everything down. And as you can see now, we've got quite a bit of clearance. Now the intercooler piping has to go all the way to the throttle body. And in the way of the throttle body is an evap canister. So of course, I removed that as well, and we'll figure out a location for that later. Now because we still had some of the old intercooler piping from the other Lancer, I didn't have to do too much fabrication. I did have to do this little bit at the bottom here. I used a 180 and a straight, and I just basically cut that 180 and then welded on a straight. I'm not really good at this myself, so I wouldn't really be able to give good advice here. I sort of just eyeball everything, measure once, cut twice, that kind of stuff. But yeah, it works out. Okay, quick little update. We have done the intake side of the intercooler piping. As you can see, we got the pipe going from this side of the intercooler around to a straight, then up to a 45, then to a 90. We still need to do this side. This side's going to be a bit more complicated because it's very tight with the AC lines. We also need to do the MAF. The MAF needs to sit around here, but we want to put a pod filter on here.
Time to do CAD.
Alex has a 3D printer, and because I need this part pretty quickly, Alex is going to design and print a piece for me, an adapter for me on CAD.
You mean?
Well,
what I'm going to do is basically use some shit filament that I've got. Well, not it's still good filament, but it's red, so we don't want that. So I'll use the red one just to do like a little outside to make sure I got all the dimensions here right. So all I'm going to do is design the full part, stop it halfway to make sure it fits, and then I'll design the whole thing, print it out of ABS. It should be the end of it.
While Alex is doing that pod filter adapter, I'm going to finish off the intercooler piping. So looks like we're pretty set with the 90 degree just coming right off the turbo there, as you can see, up and then to a 90, and then I'm reckon a 90 going straight and then down, and then from there it's going to be a bit of a tricky one. But this intercooler piping actually takes quite a bit of time, so I'll just update you as I go. But I'm pretty stoked that this side is all done. Look at that.
The highs with the lows. That's like these days. World change, doggy on lockdown. Phone call 3 ways. I just pray that he find God now. It's no replay. On my way up to the top now. That's on me, ayy. The highs with the lows. That's like these days. World change, doggy on lockdown. Phone call 3 ways.
I think we're up to the last piece of the puzzle. Yeah, we've got the last piece here that we need to weld on. I really have no special way of doing the intercooler piping. I just sort of cut, measure, but there you go, that one's pretty good.
I was lost, didn't know me. Introduced myself to codeine. 6 months was a dope fiend. Philly didn't even know things.
Alright guys, next day now, and we are just finishing off all the piping going to the turbo and the intercooler. The last thing that we need to do is the intake that goes to the turbo. So the intercooler piping is basically done. We've got it coming off the turbo, going around underneath to the intercooler, then up through to there, which I haven't connected up yet because the car doesn't run right if it's connected. All I need to do now is get a pipe going off the turbo, aka the dose pipe. Now the other Lancer had a textbook dose. It sounded perfect. Unfortunately on this Lancer, we won't be able to get a perfect dose because there is going to be a few more bends because of this goddamn box right here. This is called the mass airflow sensor, and we need to run this in line of the dose pipe. What the hell? Lachlan's just here doing some work on the Benke MR2, welding up some exhaust stuff. Look at him go. Whoa.
Booger Central.
Booger Central. Look at those beads, bro. I miss my MR2. Anyway, so I've decided that I'm gonna use a 90, then a 45. So the 90 is going to come off the turbo just like so, coming to about there. And then because I've only got one hand here, then the 45 is going to come off on an angle pointing out this way towards this little section here where I should be able to have the pod filter. Yeah, let's get to welding and hopefully it all goes smoothly. Alright, we have the 90 and 45 welded on together, as you can see, going to a Raceworks coupling reducer. I think it's a 2" to 2.5". And then we've got a mass airflow sensor that's going to be around there. And then a pod filter when Alex gets back to us with our 3D pod filter adapter. But it's looking pretty damn good at the moment, must say. The only issue that might cause a problem is that the cooler piping is sitting very close to the radiator line right there. So what I'm going to do is probably put some rubber around this, lay down the line when we obviously are ready to start the car and run it. But for now, that is looking pretty sweet. This is definitely not the tidiest engine bay, but function over form, right? This is just a 4G93 1.8 Lancer that, you know, we're putting boost through, so it doesn't need to look pretty. And now it's raining. Before we continue, I'm going to talk about what you guys are probably most curious about, and that is the total so far. So we have done the coolant lines, the oil feed, the oil drain, the intercooler. So let's tally up the cost. So the car was 650, the turbo was 400, the coolant lines, oil feed, oil drain for retail were roughly around $150. The intercooler itself was $179 and the intercooler pipes were $129. Now obviously we got a lot of these parts sponsored. This is what you would have to pay if you were to purchase them yourself. Now everything including the cost of the car, we are at a total of $1,508. That is crazy. We obviously still have a bunch of stuff that we need to do on this list, but so far the total being only 1.5K for an almost turbo car is insane. So like I said, a lot of the parts were sponsored. So I want to thank, of course, Maxpeedingrods. If you want any of these parts, head over to the description down below. And if you want fittings and lines and all that, head over to Raceworks, which you can buy at your local auto barn. So everything's in the description if you want to copy the same stuff that I've bought, or you can even get cheaper lines and do this more on a budget. But yeah, it's actually not that expensive. Alright guys, we finally have the intercooler fully installed now with the clamps on. As you can see, look at that, all clamped up, which means when we start this thing for the very first time, it will have boost. We've also got the MAF connected with the standard pipe because I don't have an adapter yet for the 2" intercooler piping. So this is just temporary so that we can get the car on running with boost. We're officially going to start this thing now for the first time with boost. I don't know if it's going to run with the mass airflow sensor, but I want to hear this thing dose. Is it even going to run? I don't know yet. It's not even starting. Oh my god. We've had a few problems in the past with the mass airflow sensor causing some sort of glitch or something. It seems like sometimes I gotta pull the plug off the mass airflow sensor and then plug it back in, and then sometimes it starts. So let's see if that fixes it. All right, try start it. What? Oh my god. So all we need to do now is a downpipe, and this thing's gonna spool up. So as you guys know, Alex went ahead and printed this. This is a pod filter adapter for the mass airflow sensor on the 4G93. Unfortunately, the print didn't come out incredibly, so he had to use a bit of epoxy to fix the imperfections here. But yeah, it did the job, not bad. We're gonna try test fit this now. So this just goes on the back right here. Just goes on like so. Unfortunately, yeah, there was a bit of warping in the print. It still fits on there pretty well, and we'll be able to put the pod filter on there. But obviously we need to get a coupling as well in order to get that to work. Next video, we're gonna start tackling the exhaust and the fuel system. So make sure, if you wanna watch that, click subscribe and chuck this video a like if you did like it. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you all in the next one. Catch ya.